Hello, everybody, and today I'm reviewing The Flash. So, this came out back in June, and I gotta say, this movie wasn't exactly my favorite DC movie, since I feel there's a lot of superhero movies out that I feel like they need to slow it down. That I wasn't exactly invested in mainly the DC movies, but for Marvel, they're doing alright. But hopefully, these superhero movies can improve with a fresh start or more time. But this movie, I gotta say, it was something else, and it was a. I'm gonna get more into detail with that, but basically, it's about where Barry Allen changes his mother's death. That causes the timeline to change, and now it's up to Barry Allen to team up with his past self to restore the timeline. So I didn't see this movie when it came out. Me and my friend didn't really have a good feeling about this movie, and this movie was pretty mixed. It's probably because of Ezra Miller. So if I don't want to go into too much celebrity drama, but they got in trouble a lot throughout last year during like the filming of this movie, back in 2022, and I don't know. It was something else, but hopefully, I don't know. Let's just move on and go to the movie. But basically, the movie starts with Flash having to save a bunch of people from a bunch of gang members as Ben Affleck's Batman is back, patrolling, trying to take down these goons who have this deadly virus. In Flash, he has to make this quick decision because he has to save a bunch of babies from falling out a destroyed building. And a dog's also flying out there. And he's super hungry, and so he has to do that so he can get his speed boost up. And he eats a bunch of food slowly from a vending machine, and then he starts grabbing everyone. And it was a nice, impressive scene. Like, they put a lot of time into that scene. But as that was going on, I do like the scene where, a bunch of fangirls were, asking Flash for a picture. But that's where the movie title starts to slowly pop up. But anyway, the Flash basically does save the babies and the dog. And Batman basically is trying to stop the gang members. And he almost drops them, but with the help of Wonder Woman, she gets a cameo in this, surprisingly. And this could be our last time seeing Ben Affleck's Batman and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman and Ezra Miller's Flash, since everything's getting rebooted. And so basically Flash is super bummed about his mom's death, and we learned it was because she went to the grocery store and she forgot to grab tomatoes, and she basically forgot, and the father was gonna go get the tomatoes, and that's where someone broke in and killed Barry's mom. And then when the father got home, he told Barry to run, as he was framed for murder. And they prove his innocence because Barry has evidence that his father was at the grocery store, as he said he was, for his alibi. But because the footage was fuzzy, they couldn't exactly figure it all out. But basically, Flash is going to go back in time and put the tomatoes on to his mom's cart. He does talk to Batman about when he does discover the time travel. And Batman's like, this could screw the timeline. It could screw everything up. And that's why time travel is so confusing. It wasn't like for Avengers Endgame where they went back in time and took the Infinity Stones just to resurrect everyone, and then they brought them back. It wasn't like that, but mainly time travel is just confusing because now there's a bunch of confusing potholes. Time travel could work, but if it's done right. But now, because the timeline's all out of whack, Barry's stuck in this Flashpoint timeline. That's basically what it is. It's Flashpoint, but very different. That's where he encounters his past self, who hasn't gotten the superpowers yet. And he's basically going to try to have him get his powers at a speed lab. And we basically do learn what Flash was up to during the Man of Steel, where Flash was trying to protect people, but he was still trying to learn his powers, and that's basically where this event takes place, during Man of Steel. But because the timeline's different, things are now different. As General Zod is now going to take over the city. I know I'm jumping a bit, but basically what happens is Barry and the other Barry try to get the lightning strike, but instead it penetrates through the Barry we know in this movie and the past Barry, and they both get shocked. But past Barry gets his powers, but unfortunately, present Barry, he loses his powers, and now it's a journey. They're trying to find every superhero they can find, but because the timeline's so out of whack that there's not many superheroes. Cyborg isn't around, Aquaman isn't around. He even tried to call Arthur Curry's dad, played by Tamara Morrison, Jango Fett, but Boba, but he's just like that scene was funny where he was like, who are you talking about? And he thought Barry was trying to insult his wife or something, but looks like Arthur Curry hasn't been born, and we're gonna find out what happened to Superman. But the only superhero that's around is Batman. But because the timeline's different, we have a different incarnation of Batman, and it's basically the return of Michael Keaton Batman. So I feel he's a highlight of this movie, since a lot of people were wondering, how is Michael Keaton Batman going to return? And he did. And even at 7 years old, he's still able to play this character, which is awesome. Yeah, he was the one highlight for me for this movie, since I do like the Michael Keaton Batman movies. And they even play the Batman theme, like it's awesome. But I don't know. But the way did the Flashes go? They go to Wayne Manor. They discover it's abandoned. It turns out Gotham is the most safest city ever. That is wild, because Gotham, as you know, if you know Batman, is not the safest city in the DC universe. And Batman's basically just retired. I guess he's just done being Batman. He has like a beard. He's like doing whatever. And he basically has to explain the multiverse after getting into a fight with the two Barrys after he thinks they're an intruder. And basically, Batman explains what Barry did like a spaghetti. The spaghetti is meant to be normal looking, but because Barry changed one thing, now the spaghetti's all over the place in a big mess. And he got it just right. So now, it's up to them to change the timeline or try to prevent more bad things from happening. But Batman's still not on board about this. But they basically explore the Batcave for a bit, and the two Barrys get into a fight about something. They argue over their mom, and basically Barry being a jerk. And I just love how past Barry's kind of just standing up for himself. He's like, hey, I've done nothing to you. I'm just a guy who makes jokes. Like, you don't have to be such a jerk. Like, it's weird how this Barry is annoyed by his past self, even though he gets told he's annoying. Like, it's wild. But Batman decides to have a change of heart as he is now. I do like the line where he says, yeah, I'm Batman. And he puts on the iconic Michael Keaton Batman suit, and they take the Batwing, and they're gonna try to find. They tried to find Clark Kent, but it turns out he's not around, because I think I'll get to that, but like I said earlier, but instead it leads them to a journey to go to this Russian base, where it turns out who they're holding hostage that General Zod is after. So they can take down his army. Turns out that he wants Supergirl. So Supergirl's played by Sasha Belair. I don't know how to say her name, but she was really pretty as Supergirl. I don't know. I felt like she was done dirty in this movie, if I gotta be honest, because they do rescue her. They get through all the guards, and we get iconic fight scenes between Michael Keaton and Batman. I do like the scene where they skydive, where Batman just glides like Batman would. Yeah, it was very cool, but then once they get back to Wayne Manor after that long fight, Barry now has to get his powers back, but Bruce tries his best to electrocute Barry. But it doesn't, just like in Flashpoint with Thomas Wayne and Barry, the electrocution doesn't work in now. But Supergirl, who's slowly getting her powers, she picks up Barry, and the lightning strikes him, and he finally gets his powers back. So that's awesome, and he does get his suit. I forgot to mention this, but the past Barry also seems to be having fun with his flash powers as he's going through various apartments, and he's running around naked. He's just making things worse for him. But I gotta say, I do like the dynamic between the two Barrys. Like, it feels compelling having present Barry and past Barry cooperate. But that's where it leads to the final battle of this movie, where they try to confront Zod. But it goes horribly wrong. The two Barrys are fighting the various armies that Zod has, but Supergirl tries to confront Zod. But it turns out Zod actually killed Superman. Superman's pod got destroyed when he was delivered to Earth. He was trying to, but Supergirl is super pissed off about this. But this takes a turn when she is actually murdered by General Zod. It is crazy. Like, I actually didn't think they were going to kill her off, but they did. And unfortunately, Michael Keaton's Batman also dies because he crash lands when he doesn't realize there's a force field between Zod's army. But the two Barrys keep trying to change the timeline where they can try to prevent Supergirl and Batman's death. But Michael Keaton Batman tells him to just let it go. But it's so sad that he died. But this wasn't the Burton versus Batman, since this is just an altered timeline, just like in Flashpoint. But the two Barrys try their best to keep changing the timeline, but present Barry's telling past Barry to stop, because it's not helping, because no matter what they do, they can't change the past. And he's trying to tell him that he cares about his mom, but past Barry is just like, present Barry's like, no matter what time it is, Mom will always be alive in us. And he's so right. But unfortunately, the villain of this movie is really Dark Flash. He's not the Reverse Flash. I was thinking they were going to have Reverse Flash, but they didn't. But this Flash is basically Barry Allen from a different timeline. And he's like this giant, creepy looking thing. I don't have a picture of it, but like, basically, he kills the past Barry. So basically, everyone dies in this movie except for Barry, who now has to go back in time and fix everything. So I'm going to talk about this one scene because of what Barry did, because the timeline's getting so out of whack. It's starting to collide in the multiverse. And that's where we get a bunch of CGI cameos from, this is going to sound messed up, but like, they actually did like some sort of AI version, CGI version of actors who played the various DC characters. We see the return of Christopher Reeve's Superman, the girl who played Supergirl, George Reeves' Superman. We see like this Jay Garrick Flash. We see Adam West's Batman. Like, I don't know, does it feel messed up that they're using dead actors for CG models for a movie? Like this, as much as those cameos could be cool to some, if you enjoyed it, cool, but like, I'm just not feeling it when I'm seeing these CGI models. They just look weird, and the CGI in the movie looks really just odd. And I don't know, it's just, I wasn't buying it. But Barry does go back in time. He does have a talk with his mom about what he's about to do, change the timeline where he never moved that tomato sauce. It's crazy that even something as simple as moving a tomato sauce could change the context of time. Like, that's how crazy time travel is. But everything is restored, but one thing is changed. As it turns out, Barry's dad has been cleared from his charges, his murder charges, as the evidence has finally been approved by Wayne Tech. since Barry's back in his timeline. But it turns out he's in another timeline itself. He's in the George Clooney Batman verse. So I was very confused by this. Like, I was so worried they were going to have George Clooney as the new Batman, who's now the Batman DCEU, but it turns out this is just another timeline, as I think. I don't know. People, tell me in the comments. Is George Clooney Batman? This even he isn't open about playing Batman again. He says there's not enough drugs in the world to play Batman. That I guess he really did not like playing Batman. Maybe he did, but I don't know. But I'm not obviously not a fan of the Batman and Robin movies. It's maybe I'll talk about it one day. But that's the Flash movie. I don't know. This wasn't my favorite DC movie. I feel like this was the most entertaining out of the ones I've seen, since I thought Blue Beetle was fine. I think it was miles better than The Flash, but yeah, it was better than Justice. No. The animated movies I saw, they were better than the Flash movie. But I don't know. The movies weren't exactly my highest for DC. This movie had a lot of controversy. The plot, I can respect that it has for like Michael Keaton's Batman and like the Flashpoint storyline, but I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it for this movie. I give it like I wouldn't say I hate this movie. I'm like fine with it. Like I don't know. I don't mind watching it, but it's definitely not my favorite DCEU movie. I prefer like the Suicide Squad, but honestly, I'm not really a big fan of the DCEU. Like I'm off and on with it, if I gotta be honest. But did you like this movie? If you do, that's great. If you didn't, that's fine. But I'd give this movie like maybe like a low 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.